Hey, this is Zulem Urbina, and tune into the relay for the latest news in boxing all around the world. Thank you for supporting myself and other female boxers. We truly appreciate it.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. An interesting update on former WBA super featherweight champion Hyun Mi Choi, who took to her social media and stated, "World title match."
World title.
Some portions of this caption are lost in translation. Hyun Mi Choi appears to be indicating a world title fight that she has coming up. She stated, "October last year, I had to take a short break due to my injury. I am so excited to return to the ring. I am very excited to recover well after my injury. I would like to thank you for your support and interest. Location, Suwon Indoor Gymnasium. Broadcast, KBS Sports. Time, 12 to 3 p.m. live. The opponent appears to be from Argentina. The opponent she's said to be facing."
Last in action late last year opposite the ring, America's own Vanessa Bradford, who Hyun Mi Choi fought to a decision, a common opponent between her and this division's only reigning champion, undisputed champion, Alicia Baumgartner, who's going to be in action later on this month.
The rematch with Cristina Leonardatu, the only fighter to give Alicia Baumgartner a professional loss. Alicia looks to avenge it.
The former champion of South Korea, Hyun Mi Choi, is on the comeback trail, sporting a professional record of 20 wins with no losses, 1 draw with 5 knockouts.
Has Hyun Mi Choi finally found the courage to share the ring with Alicia Baumgartner beyond Alicia's upcoming fight later on this month? She does appear to be on the comeback trail.
As stated, she was last in action late last year opposite the ring, America's own Vanessa Bradford, a common opponent between her and Alicia, and at least according to Hyun Mi Choi, she suffered an injury of some kind.
Whatever that injury was, it didn't stop her from competing on a reality TV show called 100.
Physical 100 or Fast 100.
Countrywoman Bo Mi Ray Shin also participated in that reality TV show segment of it that's been doing the rounds. Bo Mi Ray Shin overpowering.
She choked out Hyun Mi Choi.
That same reality TV show. Hyun Mi Choi, who's been averaging 1 fight a year for the last 5 years. She's only fought once a year since 2018. She's barely active.
Against pedestrian level competition.
I don't actually think she was injured late last year. I don't actually think she suffered an injury in the Vanessa Bradford fight. The timing of the injury is all too convenient at a time where she was expected to go straight into an undisputed title fight with Alicia Baumgartner, who many favor to beat her. All of a sudden, she's injured, labeled a champion in recess by the WBA.
She basically forfeited her title.
She's not a champion anymore, and what I think she's trying to do is get in position to pick up a vacant title should Alicia Baumgartner move up in weight in the near future. I don't think it's Hyun Mi Choi's intention to share the ring with Alicia so much as get in position,
shake off some rust,
keep waiting her out, hoping that she'll move up in weight soon so all those titles can be redistributed, so that all of those titles can go vacant, so that she can, in effect, pick one up. The problem is that Hyun Mi Choi, she's not out of the woods. The women's super featherweight division is still teeming with talent. There's
still former champion of Belgium, Delphine Persoon, showed up and showed out in the Bo Mi Ray Shin fight.
Still Bo Mi Ray Shin, who in many ways is the spitting image of Delphine Persoon in action in her younger years. Being 10 years younger than Delphine Persoon, she's just as formidable, just as dangerous. There's also France's own Rima Ayadi, Elham Mekhaled,
Brazil's own Beatriz Ferreira, who was in action not that long ago this past weekend on the undercard of Dalton Smith's last fight.
If what Hyun Mi Choi's got in her head is that she's going to wait Alicia out, waiting for those titles to be vacated, she's not out of the woods. This is still a deep division, a talent-rich division, and there are going to be that many more girls hot on her trail, looking to get her in the ring.
The coast isn't clear.
But she's supposed to be coming back opposite the ring, an opponent that has yet to be announced, likely a lighter touch.
Those are the only kinds of opponents that Hyun Mi Choi's been fighting the last 5 years.
Don't think she's going to be all that ambitious in what would be her big comeback fight off that injury and that time off. We'll see what happens.
Who she ends up fighting.
Men's lightweight news, a startling revelation in reference to a potential Devin Haney versus Shakur Stevenson fight. Shakur Stevenson has stated Devin Haney's offered him a 75-25 split to fight next, but he has rejected it. I don't think I'm the A-side, I just know my worth, and 25% ain't it. I didn't turn the fight down. That was supposedly the first offer. I haven't heard anything since.
Saying that it's the first offer in expectation of a second. Shakur Stevenson is Devin Haney's mandatory challenger by way of the WBC. As a mandatory challenger, I think all he's really entitled to is 25%.
This news is getting an adverse reaction in many quarters. A Twitter user that goes by the name Real Lopez said, Shakur is one of my favorites, but in boxing, sacrifices are made. Devin could have just moved up after beating Kambosos twice, but he stayed to fight Loma. Shakur is confident in beating Devin. Let's see it and make the sacrifice. We were all saying Shakur is the boogeyman, right?
Right.
Myself, I heavily favor Shakur Stevenson to beat Devin Haney, not because Devin's not a good fighter, but because Shakur is a better one. Better all around. Better with that base style and more versatile.
Though fight forecasts are hardly a substitute for actual fights. As stated, this news is getting an adverse reaction.
A Twitter user that goes by the name Bombs Boxing said, Shakur Stevenson has fumbled an opportunity before. How about the time the Warrington fight was on the table in the UK and he declined it? Would have been an easy win, an easy way to get a belt. Now with this Haney situation, I hope it isn't true. Stop fumbling opportunities.
It was 2 years ago, maybe 3, that Shakur Stevenson was made an offer to come over to the UK and unify titles with then champion Josh Warrington, and the offer was declined.
The offer from Matchroom Boxing scribe Hans Themistode stated, I'm not trying to count the man's money, but Shakur keeps saying that he's going to make it look easy against Devin, so 25% for an easy win on pay-per-view while becoming the A-side against literally everyone not named Tank and becoming undisputed seems like a great deal to me. Am I bugging?
People are having an adverse reaction. They think that Shakur Stevenson is being somewhat unreasonable.
Another Twitter user that goes by the name Cobra Fade stated, you're the mandatory and won't fight on mandatory terms. That means you don't want it.
25%.
I understand the sentiments expressed by what are now Shakur Stevenson's critics. Some are more rational than others, and I get it, but if Devin Haney only offered Shakur Stevenson 25%, what you then have to ask yourself is, well, what is that 25% of?
What?
What's the size of the pot?
What is it, a $3 million pot, $4 million, $5 million, $6 million?
It's the size of the pot, because depending on the size of the pot, that will tell you how realistic 25% is or isn't. Let's round up. Let's just call it a $3 million pot.
Three's too low.
It is true. Shakur Stevenson himself makes about $3 million per fight.
Devin more than that.
Let's call it a $6 million pot.
6.
And 25% of $6 million is approximately $1.5 million. 1.5. That's substantially less than what Shakur already makes per fight.
1.5.
Just bouncing ideas around. That's just the ballpark figure. That if the size of the pot is anywhere around $6 million, that would then have to mean Shakur only stands to make a little over $1 million for the fight, and Devin would make anywhere in the neighborhood of $4 to $4.5 million.
Tack on the pay-per-view's upside, if there even is one.
At least theoretically, both fighters could stand to make more money from the pay-per-view's upside, but that's providing there is an upside. $6 million pot.
Raw numbers.
In order for you to generate about $6 million, $6 million, based on a $75 price point for a pay-per-view, you would have to bring in excess of 80,000 pay-per-view buys.
80.
Rounding up 100,000.
For there to be an upside.
In the neighborhood of 80,000, maybe around there, to break even, and in excess, well in excess of that, for there to be an upside for the fighter. Shakur Stevenson, in particular, who based on these figures, these ballpark numbers, would only stand to make about 1.5 guaranteed. That's less than he already makes.
Boxing insider Rick Glacier stated, Devin Haney making Shakur an offer is comical, and there's people falling for it. Anyone with any boxing brains knows that Bob Arum isn't going to allow an offer for Shakur to go fight on another network besides ESPN, especially after Arum promoted Haney's last 3.
He went on to say that Devin Haney is once again being courted by Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, who he always has no shortage of nice things to say about.
Rick Glacier.
But how realistic the offer is, and based on that percentage, 75-25 in favor of Devin Haney, it's only as realistic as the size of the pot, because Shakur already makes very good money.
In the neighborhood of $3 million per fight.
Another Twitter user that goes by the name TDHBXG said, a contender that believes he should A-side a sitting undisputed champion. I've been told y'all about this dude. Y'all said I was a hater.
Shakur didn't like that, and he responded,
Get off my nuts. I don't think I'm the A-side, I just know my worth. And 25% ain't it. I didn't turn the fight down either. That was supposed to be the first offer. I haven't heard anything else since.
It's a realistic number.
Oh, Devin Haney makes in the neighborhood of $3 million per fight, at least per reports, and so does Shakur Stevenson. So when you combine that, you're looking at a roughly $6 million pot. That would be a realistic size pot for a fight like this.
I think.
But if the pot is anywhere at or around $6 million, and the split is a 75-25 split, it's not at all realistic to think you can make this fight, not based on those raw numbers. And a lot of people aren't going to like that, but
But a lot of people are fucking stupid and childish.
I never thought that we were on the eve of this fight, if I'm being honest with you. This was a fight that I would sooner expect to happen sometime down the line at either 140, maybe even 147, and it's based on the raw numbers, the raw figures. The fight would be too hard to negotiate at this point in the juncture. I, like many of you, would prefer to see the fight sooner rather than later, but based on what the numbers are,
The math ain't mathin'.
two young fighters, two unbeaten fighters who make around $3 million per fight.
Devin Haney made his pay-per-view debut in his last fight opposite the ring Vasyl Lomachenko, and it was estimated to have brought in just north of 100,000, 150,000.
Would a Shakur Stevenson pay-per-view do better than that? Because it would have to satisfy the financial demands of both the fighters who already make very good money per fight without pay-per-view with it.
I didn't think this fight would be next or even after next.
I didn't, but that's not going to stop the boo birds from lambasting Shakur Stevenson for reportedly rejecting Devin Haney's initial offer, that at least he tried, and maybe Shakur should bite the bullet and make the sacrifice. How do you guys feel?
Do you agree with that?
Do you agree with Shakur Stevenson that Devin Haney's offer is a lowball offer, or do you feel that Shakur should make a sacrifice because Devin did?
Rick Glacier speculates that this offer is supposed to be coming from Matchroom. It's not Top Rank bankrolling this thing.
That is another stumbling block because Shakur Stevenson fights exclusively on Top Rank and ESPN.
You want him to cross the street over to DAZN for just 25%.
I don't think it happens, not based on those numbers. I don't think it goes down based on those circumstances. Make of that what you will, but they don't look to be fighting.
And I didn't expect that they would.
Finally, in men's super middleweight news, former champion turned analyst Paulie Malignaggi slams Canelo Alvarez for choosing Jermell Charlo for September 30th fight.
This decision has garnered no shortage of critics and boo birds.
Paulie Malignaggi stated, not only did this guy give us great fights, really good fights against really good opponents as far as to unify the titles, but he's going to have to keep defending them and against good fighters at this weight class. Keeps producing good fighters, said Malignaggi on Paulie TV, and talking about Canelo choosing Jermell for his next fight instead of David Benavidez.
You know what kills me is that David was a champion 2 times before Canelo won a full title at this weight.
2 times on 2 separate occasions, having first become a champion at this weight all the way back there in 2017, 6 years ago. And they never placed the burden on David the way they placed the burden on Canelo.
To fight everybody at or around this weight. Some of the guys at middle, super middle, some of the guys at light heavy.
Canelo Alvarez's biggest critics seem to be inadvertently paying him a compliment, expecting him to be able to fight this many guys when they don't expect this many guys to fight each other. What do they think, he's Superman?
They must.
Paulie continued, nope, bring in Canelo Alvarez and he ruined the whole thing for us, said Malignaggi about his belief that Jermell will stop taking risky fights against the top challengers at 154 after his big payday against Canelo on September 30th. What's interesting is how fighters that make mega millions fighting Canelo stop fighting frequently and their careers go down.
It's not entirely true. Look at Callum Smith. He moved up in weight after losing to Canelo, and now he's fighting R2 or better beef.
It's a risky fight, the riskiest fight you could have at light heavyweight. Look at Caleb Plant. After being stopped by Canelo Alvarez, he ended up sharing the ring with David Benavidez.
It was risky, wouldn't you say?
Any fighter as successful as a Canelo Alvarez is often subject to gross oversights and snap judgments, like the ones that Paulie is making, who said, I respect the fact that he's a big sell, a big star, and a very good fighter. Canelo, said Malignaggi, listen, I admit it, he's a very good fighter, but why can't boxing enforce the fights that it wants? The fights within the weight classes.
Who says that Canelo's not going to fight David?
Says he's not going to fight him. He crossed over to the PBC, signed a multi-fight deal, a 3-fight deal. Perhaps David will be one of those fights. You're just splitting hairs over what order he does it.
What order he does it in?
Paulie continued, the fights within the weight classes that would make the best matchups and, in turn, give the fight fans the best matchups and the best fights. You actually get the bang for your buck. You wouldn't just have to pay for the fight.
Why are you just now waiting to care about the super middleweight division? David was there through 2 cycles of champions and didn't unify with a 1.
Back in 2019, when he could have unified with his PBC stablemate Caleb Plant, they made Paulie Malignaggi and everybody else wait 4 years for that fight.
Where was the outrage?
Paulie continued, you actually get your entertainment value for the fight. Now we're not going to get it because, honestly, does Jermell really have a reason to defend against Tim Tszyu?
My question is, how interested was Jermell from the very beginning? I was never convinced that fight was going to happen. This just confirmed it.
I'm no Monday morning quarterback. If you've been following this channel the last couple of weeks, the last couple of months, the last year or so, that particular fight was a conversation, I maintained throughout that I couldn't see the fight happening.
And now it's not, and you have Canelo Alvarez the scapegoat.
Paulie continued, whether he, Jermell, wins or loses against Canelo, he's going to make so much money, he's not even going to care about taking another risk against Tim Tszyu. I don't know what else to say. I'm just going by my basic reactions right now. What do I think about Canelo versus Jermell Charlo? It's 2 very good fighters that are 2 weight classes apart. What is there to say? What is there to break down about this fight?
It's a bit hypocritical for Paulie to be clutching at his pearls like this.
Must think the people forgot. 10 years ago, he fought Adrian Broner at 147 pounds. And Adrian Broner, just like Jermell Charlo, he had to jump up 2 weight classes. He had to jump up 2 weight classes for that fight with Paulie, but Broner won.
But he wants to clutch at his pearls over this?
If they were the exact same size, I'd probably pick Jermell to be the favorite. But they're 2 full weight classes apart. 2, bro. Do you know what that means? It's a lot of difference. 2 full weight classes of a difference, but
it wasn't so big a difference that Adrian Broner didn't beat you when he jumped up 2 weight classes, so why are you so critical?
I'm telling you that he must think that people forgot. When he fought Adrian Broner, Broner jumped up 2 weight classes, the same way Jermell Charlo is about to.
So quit your crying.
Holding Canelo Alvarez to a standard you don't even hold yourself to, or didn't.
Pretending that Jermell is this small, shrimpy guy.
Saying this is a lot for Jermell to overcome, not to mention, of course, the politics of any kind of Canelo fight that you have to overcome to begin with. I don't know, man.
I do.
Hey, who's got the height advantage between Canelo and Jermell?
Jermell.
Who's got the reach advantage?
Jermell.
Do you think it would be easier or harder for Jermell Charlo to boil down all the way down to 154 for Tim Tszyu, or would it be easier to not have to boil down that low, stay at 168?
Because Jermell hasn't made the junior middleweight limit in over a year's time. I don't imagine that's an easy weight to make for him, having been there so long.
Are you guys telling yourselves that he walks around at 154? He boils down to 154, cuts a lot of weight to do it.
So spare me all the pearl clutching.
He's a big boy, and he made his bed, now he's got to lie in it.
Stop complaining.